Once upon a time, when the blue globe, which is mankind's home, was still very young in the celestial circle, two sisters were living high up on the ocean of clouds. Their home was made up of heights and vastness, many mountain peaks and the blue of the sky, which always glistened, except when the clouds became so dense that one could only see one's own hand. Now, it occurred that these two sisters were close to each other. They had no one else except the wind, which caused the stories of the world to blow over to them, so they swore the utmost fidelity to each other. They always wanted to be good sisters. It was the most important thing here in the heights of loneliness. Nevertheless, the sky was filled with the greatest serenity, as we know it only from the children's days, soft and painted by time. Sometimes the sisters raged on the clouds and blew them so hard that a little bit of the white loosened, and then they became quite cheeky again and jumped around on the poor clouds, so that they were pushed down, deeper and deeper. Almost hoped that they had reached the earth, but they could never leave the clouds. No matter how hard they tried, they could never reach the stalks under their fingers, even if they were only one breath away. But the groaning clouds came up again, defying their mistresses. The youngest was always very sad, and began to weep bitterly. The eldest got so angry that her cheeks were glowing red. However, the rambling and scolding were ignored by the clouds. Their freedom was limited to the sky. They weren't made for the earthly world. Therefore, they only walked across the sky to explore the seas, mountain heights, and the green valleys that interested them so much. To fulfill her need to see the world, the older sometimes let her face over the edge of the clouds, which was her home, and marveled at the strange world. The youngest did the same, but she always waited for someone, her friend the wind, which carried many gifts and goods in his transparent arms. She always found the wind on the lowest cloud. Sometimes he brought the birds up, and other times he let the leaves rise with him as well. Even though she was not a part of the earth and would never be one, she felt so close with him, and getting to know the world was so important for her. So she proudly brought a new treasure to her older sister, with whom she shared everything. The years had passed, and the children had become young women who were still living in the heavenly sky. However, the wind had come up less often, but they still had enough to be amazed at. The birds had brought many stories, which the eldest always told when the youngest got tired or sad, and the younger one had learned the dances she danced in cheerful hours. The loneliness no longer felt overwhelming, although the thought of a good old friend remained. And one evening, as she was walking through the wide tallest cloud garden, she felt this breeze. At first, she thought she was imagining it, this familiar wind. She had felt it so often, it could be a sweet fleeting daydream. But then her heart sagged and urged her to march. Immediately she knew who was waiting for her down there. She had to hurry. Her feet almost flew, carrying in her like the wings of a small bird over the clouds. But even though she was completely out of breath when she reached for the last cloud between earth and sky with her foot, it was not the wind who received her, only the familiar landscape. Tears ran down her cheeks. She wept bitterly because she could hardly bear the longing in her heart to see her friend. This longing and hope had tormented her so much. As deep as she was in her sobbing, she did not notice how the older one approached her. "Why are you crying, sister?" she asked. She laid her hand on the shoulder of the trembling thing. "Oh, sister, it's a very tragic thing. I have missed the wind, my old friend," she sobbed. And she was about to tell of her sorrow, but the elder one raised a brow. "Is that so? Who else could have given you a gift that lays there on the clouds?" She stopped. Indeed, with these words, the transparent peal stopped. Surprised, the younger one turned her head in the direction her sister had pointed, and there sat on the white pillow a filigree chest made of dark wood that someone had painted blue laid there. What kind of a strange gift! Yes, the wind had brought them the finest things, grasses and stalks, feathers and skins, stories and songs, but never such a box. Could it really be a gift from the old man? The younger one was not sure when her hands gently grabbed it. Her fingers stroked over the knotted tendrils. Then she opened the chest, and in it, on the finest ocean-dyed pillow, were 2 rods to which the hair of an animal was bound. At first, she didn't know what it was all about. They weren't from a tree, not even from a plant. Nevertheless, the younger one closed the gifts in her heart and gave them to her sister. In the end, they wanted to share everything. The oath of childhood had been carried to the youngest time. It was one morning when the younger one had pulled her stick out of the box. She felt it lost in thoughts. For a while she sat on one of the clouds. Her gaze glided from the wood to the sea beneath her, and there, at a moment where her longing grew, so great that she thought she could feel the wet blue around her, she wanted to see how the water felt, how it was when she was standing right next to it. A blue line was drawn into the sky. Blue. Surprised, she swung the brush again, which then left a blue line on the big sky tent. Unbelieving, she rose from the cloud and rushed to her sister and asked her to do the same. The sister looked at the blue water and swung her brush to leave a stripe as well. Those brushes must have captured what her eyes saw. Mountain lodge, flowers, trees. The sisters painted the entire sky tent. Enchanted, they stared at their work, so they were able to take the earth into the sky. So they sang and laughed into this cloud of colors. Soon the sky was no longer just clothed in clouds and white, but painted in the finest colors that a human eye can see. The sisters painted day in and day out, taking turns. Sometimes the sky was red, like the hot fire that rages mercilessly over people in some places. But then it appeared in green, like the fields and grasses that they enjoyed so much. The younger one especially loved the sea and its colors, so that her hand made the brush paint the darkest blue, a touch of green, and the deepest black. Sometimes she spotted small dots onto the sky that reminded her of the pearls still found in shells today, which the wind once showed her. When her work was finished, she waved to her sister, who began to paint the sky all over again with the gently brushed strokes. The elder one was inspired by flowers and plants, as she worshipped the strong, strong colors that only a rose could have. She loved the wheat fields just as much, so golden tones and streaks often adorned the sky. These artworks were also admired by the people soon, who often gazed at the sky just to marvel the paintings that suddenly appeared. The scholars and sages quickly met and started talking. Soon they noticed that it must have been 2 artists, since the brush stroke and the perfect skies were so different. That's why they called the older sun the younger one moon. And even when the wise lords tried to explain the events, a murmur ran through the cities, villages and lanes about what lived there in heaven. Some believed that a giant would throw a big fireball every day that would cool down in the evening. So absurd was the human mind. But even smaller dreamers pondered about it. One day, it turned out that a young man was sitting in a tavern. It was already in an hour that only the most hopeless fools and heaviest miner remain, and between the ghastly beer and the fat roast, the holes and the tattling, he overheard the story of a strange man who spoke to the innkeeper, completely dissolved. Welcome here. Now you see me again and not my drawing. I am very glad you stayed until this moment. I want to say that this fairy tale is not complete yet. It will be continued in another video. I just wanted to bring out the first part and see how you like it, because it's a bit of a different kind of video. It's more likely storytelling, I'm not sure, but I wanted to show why I make my art and the stories behind this, because I wrote this fairy tale by myself, and this is my idea and my illustration to the fairy tale I wrote. And sometimes you can interpret the fairy tales, but I just like to tell the stories I write. I mean, that's my hobby, and I hope you like the story, and maybe you have an idea what will happen next. If you know something or have an idea, please tell me. I am very interested in your theories. Even though I am finished, I just need to do out my voice, but I think a first part is okay. So I hope you like this video. Leave a like or comment, maybe give me some feedback, and I will see you next time, and please stay tuned. See you soon, stay magical, you're just not fairy.